Hello, all you beautiful people out there. If you're new, welcome to my channel. Thank you for stopping by. Why don't you go down, hit the subscribe button, and ring the bell so you don't miss any episodes. For my fans and subscribers, you are the lifeblood of this channel. Thank you very much. Today's topic, Jim Jones and bad news. Let's go. Social services had been staffed with Temple members, and they sometimes brought in newcomers to the area. The night classes that Jones taught also brought a few followers, but Mendocino County just did not have enough people for significant Temple growth. As America became more entrenched in the Vietnam War, protesters took to the streets. Racial tensions also escalated, especially after Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in April. On June 4th, someone killed Robert Kennedy shortly after he won the presidential primary in California. Locally, Judge Robert Winslow lost the primary for justice of the Mendocino County Supreme Court. Whoever succeeded him would likely be more politically conservative and remove Jim Jones as grand jury foreman. People's Temple could either move again and start fresh elsewhere, or they could remain where they were, where their neighbors and local government acted hostile toward them. Beyond that, Jones had to answer the question, what reason did he have for People's Temple continuing to exist? He could discontinue People's Temple, move away with his family, and start another mission. However, dissolving the church would be tantamount to admitting failure. He couldn't have that because all of his so-called failures were someone else's fault. He still believed, due to his narcissism, that he could bend events to his will. He fully expected to lead the U.S. in embracing socialism. He thought of himself as an earth god who was able to give blessings in the present that the sky god was unwilling or unable to give. He felt an opportunity would soon present itself, and it did. Jones spent a portion of each day searching for articles on oppressed peoples and material for sermons. He subscribed to both major San Francisco newspapers and found that Macedonia Baptist, a major black church, was holding a service to honor Martin Luther King Jr. Jones ordered all People's Temple's members to attend, despite any obligations they had. A caravan made their way from Mendocino County to San Francisco on the morning of the event, but many drivers got lost in the city and barely made it to gather in the parking lot before marching into the church as a group. Because of the move and the problems with outreach, People's Temple at this time only consisted of around 150 people. As Jones had hoped, members of the host churches were surprised when so many whites came in to look for seats. Temple members socialized with Bay Area blacks offering condolences on King's death. These were not mere platitudes either. Members who had stuck with the temple in its current state really did believe in racial equality. The ministers leading the service were also impressed, especially when they found out that these people drove about 100 miles to attend. So naturally, these ministers recognized Jones from the pulpit and even invited him to share a few words. Well, this was exactly what Jim wanted. Jones spoke humbly at first, praising King and his work. He knew better than to overshadow his hosts, and when he said, "We need to follow King's example," he was met with amens. This surprised the black congregants, especially coming from a white man. He did, however, sneak in mentions of temple programs. He also announced a community meeting and invited everyone to attend. The temple would be blessed to have their new friends attend. Jones probably thought this up on the spot because temple members were just as surprised to hear this as everyone else. However, after the announcement, he and his closest people started planning it. The church withdrew some funds to rent the Mendocino County Fairgrounds for a weekend because they contained the only structure large enough to hold the crowd of thousands that Jim expected to attend. Jones kept in touch with the San Francisco ministers, saying things like Martin Luther King Jr. would want the races to come together in such a positive way. Jim designed the program to appeal to blacks on two levels. First, a call to social justice, which involved religion being entertaining. Now, I don't know if any of you have attended a black church in the United States, but I have. And believe me, there is no way you can fall asleep during their services. You just can't. So the entertaining aspect of religion is something they were used to. Jim decided the healings had to come back, and he recruited some of the most faithful members who had come from Indiana, including Patty Cartmel. These people knew trickery would be involved, but rationalized it as needing to be done for the good of the church. This involved him using his old trick of healing people who were plants in the audience of cancer many times throughout the service. The person would be escorted to the bathroom by members in on the act, who would produce rotten chicken innards. They would hold these up to the audience, claiming the person had passed the tumor on Jim's command. Also, members who were not clued in would be handed the disgusting things, made to walk up and down the aisles, and present these lumps as proof of the healings. Of course, only the most gullible were chosen for this, and Jim told them not to let anyone look too closely or even touch them. When the day came, members waited at the fairgrounds, hoping some people from San Francisco would show up. The morning passed before a bus pulled into the parking lot, followed by more and more. Relieved temple members offered their guests hugs and snacks before ushering them inside for the service. Jones offered the visiting pastors a chance to make some remarks, and no one interrupted. Although Jim usually did not use the Bible in his Ukiah sermons, he made sure to use it generously on this occasion. Then the healings began. The service finally ended, and at this time, people socialized with each other. Many temple members asked the guests for their mailing addresses and phone numbers so they could keep in touch. Jones discussed possible joint ventures with the ministers and thanked them for coming. Indeed, temple members did write and call their new friends, although the ministers, if they knew about it, didn't seem to care. After all, People's Temple was 100 miles away. A few visitors did accept invitations to return. This probably could be chalked up in large part to the temple offering transportation round trip. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that these ministers should have known their parishioners were receiving letters and phone calls from members of the People's Temple, because it is none of their business. However, considering what would happen later, it probably would have been a good idea. Temple members showered these return visitors with attention, making them feel like the members were interested in what they had to say. This is a common cult tactic called love bombing. Meetings or services were lively and contained healings. Jones talked about how people could fix things in the here and now, not wait for some future paradise. This resonated with the guests because they were frustrated with everyday life. Although segregation had been dethroned, many whites thought the government was giving blacks unfair advantages. Meanwhile, blacks felt trapped in the poverty and inadequate housing that defined their lives. They struggled with the red tape in social services and the legal system. To make matters worse, gangs and drugs ran rampant in the projects. For my non-American viewers, the projects are government-funded housing. For those of you who know anything about the civil rights movement in the United States, these weren't the only problems, but I gotta tell you, this is kind of depressing. So I'm not gonna cover any other problems that they faced, even though they were important. Well, friends, I think that's a pretty good place to stop for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, press the subscribe button, and if you want to know when I come out with new videos, press the bell next to the subscribe button. All social media links are in the description, including my PayPal, email, uh, membership, and whatnot. My source is also linked below. Please leave comments in the comment section. Not only do I love hearing from you, but it helps to trigger the YouTube algorithm. Keep learning and searching for truth. Here are a few videos from my library. If you have not watched them yet, go ahead and watch them and tell me what you think. If you would like me to cover something, please leave it in the comments. You can also catch me on Twitter or at my email address. Until next time, friends, stay safe and goodbye.